All right. Anybody have a question? There's a question.
You cope, is all. You just take it step by step. And first thing you kind of get past as a woman is that if you're separated from your man, you won't, it's not a good relationship. You have to kind of redefine what a relationship is. I know for me, I came from the South, and everyone says, points to, for example, Joanne Woodward and Paul Newman as being the only relationship that's ever made it. So, you start saying, well, what did she do? I better do what she did if I want to have some sort of, personal life that's meaningful, which is finally, the most important thing. But what Joanne did was she just never left Paul. She just never worked without him, always worked with him. And as much as possible, one wants to do that. But on the other hand, you have to find your own solution. And there are people that are working in the business now, I find, tend to go in very different directions. A 3-month separation is a long separation, and it's not, an enjoyable thing, that element of it. But you can manage it. You can go and see each other, once a month or whatever. You have to kind of redefine it, and the most important thing is not to sell yourself, not to deny something to yourself that's important to you, in addition to a personal life, with the person you love. You have to remember the whole person.
Somebody have a question? About something about the play. All right, why doesn't somebody tell us about the play? Mr. Bleckner?
Want me to tell you about the play?
Right.
Oh boy. I don't know if any of you know, I've heard of this play, or know anything about Harold Pinter. He's an English playwright. It's a very hard play to talk about or to describe. It's a play about starts off about two people, a husband and a wife. I guess they're getting close to 40. And husband is a documentary filmmaker in England. And they live in a converted country farmhouse that they've, redone for themselves. And his wife, Kate, never really find out quite what she does, but her old friend, Anna, that she hasn't seen for 20 years, is coming to visit. And the play is about that evening, and a lot of the things that happen to them, to the marriage, to their sense of who they are, and where they're going and where they've been. That's really all that it's about. Happens in a kind of an interesting way, and it's very difficult to talk about, and very difficult, we're finding, to do. So if that interests you, that would be fine. If anything else interests you, just ask any question.
Have any of you ever seen a Pinter play? He's a really amazing playwright, Yeah, because it's just like life is, though, There are no answers. You can't sort of pin it down. It's about what goes on between three people, really, and it's very complex, I think. Don't you think, Jim?
Yeah, it's more like very hard to talk about it, but it's like we behave in life, which is somewhat different than we behave on the stage. Yeah. A lot of plays that we're used to seeing, everything kind of makes a sense. I mean, you see something happen, and then there's a big crisis, and you kind of find out all the answers, and it gets wrapped up for you. Pinter never seems to do that. He just kind of lets things happen the way he thinks they happen, and doesn't tie anything up, and leaves it kind of a wide open field, or a mess, or however you want to think about it, which is a lot like what happens in life, where things aren't always quite simple and they don't always connect to each other. And it's very difficult to do that on the stage somehow. I don't know why, because we're used to doing something where it's kind of clearer to find out what exactly is going on and who's doing what to whom and what it all means. But this play is very difficult to find that out in. I really think you just kind of use your instincts. We would try something in a rehearsal. We'll try a section of the play or a scene, and I guess you just sit there and try, and I ask them how did it feel, and I think about how it sounded to me or how it looked, and it either was making sense or it looked wrong or it looked right, and you just, when it looks right, you kind of keep going in that direction. When it looks wrong, you drop it and try something else. Yes. The play was originally done at the Royal Shakespeare Company, which is a kind of repertory group in London. It plays at the Aldwych Theatre, and it's done there. It's still running there in repertory. It runs maybe 3-4 nights, and then they do 2 or 3 other plays. It runs about 5 nights every 2 weeks, and it's still running there. And then it was brought to New York City and done on Broadway, where it was got a wonderful critical reception, but not much of an audience reception, and it ran for about, I guess, 100 performances and closed. Then it kind of went out to Boston and Washington, I think, and then died on the road. And then this is the first other production, I think, of it here in America. There'll probably be more very, very soon. Why did I choose it? I don't know. At first I didn't want to do it very much, and then I read it, and something about it fascinated me. It just there's something about what he lets people do in the play, where somebody can say, "Oh, gee, I did this wonderful, wonderful thing." Well, for instance, kind of what the way the play works is, Bill, who plays the man in the play, Dealey, tells a story about how he met his wife, who's played by Verna, in a movie called Odd Man Out. And he talks about how they were the only 2 people in the cinema. What does he say? In the whole cinema. And he tells this story to Kate's old friend, Anna. They don't seem to be getting along really very well, and you can't quite figure out why. But he tells this story, and then later tells them how they were making love, and how Robert Newton, who was one of the actors in Odd Man Out, they both thought he was very good, and he kind of brought them together. That's the gist of the story. And a little bit later in the play, Anna is talking, and she's talking about Kate, the wife, and how she loved to read the Sunday papers, especially the theater section. And one day, Kate said to her, come quickly, and they went to this little kind of deserted district and saw, almost alone, a wonderful film called Odd Man Out. And there's like a long pause, you see, and that's all the information Pinter gives you. Was there a mix-up in the story? Do they remember them differently? Are they lying to each other? Are they? These are all the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. And somehow, when you watch it, it's a particular kind of piece. It's not very physical. It's very, very verbal. It's kind of static. It just gets deeper and deeper and more complicated, and tremendously fascinating.
Well, we know, or we decide whether or not we are lying or making something up,
right,
or borrowing someone else's story, but whether or not the audience feels that will remain to be seen.
Right. The actor has to make that decision.
But Anna says at one point regarding that, she says, I understand how you feel. There are some things one remembers, even though they may never have happened. There are things I remember which may never have happened, but as I recall them, so they take place. And it finally doesn't matter what happened and what didn't, because what didn't happen caused where they're at as much as what did happen, because everyone remembers things differently. One thing that the play's about too, which relates very directly to this audience, is that, first of all, it's a very modern sensibility, in the genre of Beckett, Pinter's very, very hip man, knows a lot, but who is looking at 3 people who are stuck just where you are now, at least on Anna's part. Kate certainly isn't, I suppose, and Dealey is, to some degree, I don't know, but Anna certainly. Her life kind of stopped there 20 years ago when she was a young girl, and it was there that she remembers herself as being most alive, and something has gone on between that time and now. and she doesn't quite know what it was, but she's, you know, in a way stuck back there, still wanting that to be true, and unable to face what really is real about her life, you know. So it's that interesting thing that if someone said, be careful what you want when you're young because you'll get it when you're old, you know, and it kind of happened to her, I think.
I'd like to know. Let me ask first. I'd like to know, did you cast for this play? I mean, how did you go about getting this crew in?
This crew.
How'd I go
This
about
cast.
I don't know that I can answer that.
Picked them out of a hat.
No, I met Faye in relation to the play. I met through Gordon Davidson. I don't know what's his title?
Artistic director.
He runs the Mark Taper Forum. And he called me one day and asked me if I'd like to do a play out here. I live in New York, and I thought it would be nice and fun. And then we would try and decide what play, and that decision is sometimes very complicated. It has to do with what he would like to do, what I would like to do, and somehow we kept coming back to this play, Old Times, and he introduced me to Faye, who was interested in doing a play out here, and she wanted very much to do Old Times. And when I read the play, I decided I would like it. I'd like to do that, and so Faye decided that she was going to do the play, and she was going to play the part of Anna, and then I had known about Bill Bryden because I'd seen him in a play. How many years ago did you do that? About 4 years ago, called The Moon for the Misbegotten at the Circle in the Square Playhouse in New York. And I liked him very much in that. And I remembered his performance very vividly, and I thought he would be very right for the man in this play. And I asked a lot of people about other things that he's done that I hadn't seen, and they said nice things about him. And I met him, and he met Gordon, and then he decided to do the play. And Verna was recommended to me by a woman named Rosemary Tischler. It's a very complicated process. There's a lot of things that happen in it, but there's a little place in New York City called the TCG. It's given money by the federal government, and what they do is they primarily try to help people find actors, directors, designers when there are opportunities for them to work. And there's a woman who works there named Rosemary, who's primarily a casting coordinator, and you'll call her up, you see, and you'll tell her, I have casting this play, and I have a role open, and I feel this way about the character, and she'll recommend people to you, and then you just meet them, and usually they read for you. If you don't know their work very well, and if you like them, and your producer likes them, in this case it's Gordon Davidson, you can give them the job, and then they can decide whether or not they'd like to come and do it. And that's how I met Verna. And she had to leave another play, actually, to do this. She was going to do one at the American Place Theater in New York, which would be, they couldn't go, it was at the same time, so she had to make a decision. Is that clear? But you do, I mean, you do it a lot on instinct, like anything else. It's kind of calculated guesswork. It just falls to the director for some reason or another. That's just part of the thing that you do, is you cast it.
That instinct's about 50% of the directing talent, I think, to cast the right person.
80.
80, you're right. More. It's true. Who? How do I feel about doing films as opposed to a play? Well, I feel very strongly about it, and it's a comparatively new development, I think, among actors in this country, and I think it's long overdue. But what is beginning to happen to actors is, well, what used to happen is that they did a play or two in New York, and the minute they had a role of any notice, they were whisked away to the movies. And theater can't compete with movies because it's incredibly lucrative, you know, and you just can't compete with it. And also, our whole emphasis seems to be on the movie star, you know. I mean, one reason for Kennedy's appeal, certainly not the most important one, but one thing we loved so was he was, you know, had this incredible movie star kind of style, you know. So that we see, our culture seems to be very oriented towards that, and what we're doing is cutting ourselves off because you don't learn how to act, and you can never learn how to act, and you cannot really deepen to any noticeable degree, you know, any really great degree, your craft as an actor in films, you know, because they're just so many other things that you're concerned with, and you just got to have it all there and ready to do it, 20 takes if necessary, you know, because you're worried about makeup and hair. It's just, and you rarely have rehearsal, you know, so that you cannot mature as an actor in films. And what's happening is that we're getting less and less good actors. You know, there are only a few left, really. Paul Newman is one, I think, example of somebody who's a really wonderful, of course, Brando and Scott too, but those, certainly Scott has had a lot of stage work, you know. But there are very few film actors who are really fine actors, you know. So that what's starting to go on now is that actors are realizing this and are starting to combine the two. Al Pacino could do anything he wanted to now, and he's doing Pablo Hummel in Boston, a play which Jeff originally directed. You know, Stacy Keach, Harris Yulin, another two American actors who can do films, but who intend to do both, and in fact intend one day to have a national theater, to have a bill passed in Congress, which is how the National Theater in London goes. I mean, it's incredible. There are 2 or 3 of them, but the National Theater has a bill through Congress that gives them money to run. So that's what Arthur Penn is doing the same thing with the production group at the Actors Studio now. So we're all kind of aiming towards that, and the great thing is you don't have to choose one or the other. Why we think that, I don't know, but it's you can have both, and just the best reason to do both is because they're both really different trips, and they're really both fun in a different way, you know. So to do some good films and to do some good plays, and be responsible also to nurture actors who are coming up. You know, we don't have any models anymore. We don't have a Laurence Olivier. Scott isn't even doing anything anymore in the theater. So that's how I feel about, you know, what I want to do. Did that answer your question enough, or? Yeah, there's always fear. It's the great enemy. Sure. Well, it's a lot harder, theater is. There's no doubt, really, because you can always say, no, let's take it again, you know, in film. But on the other hand, you control film much less, you know, because you don't know what's going to happen in the cutting, and you know, it moves very quickly, you know. That's why it's so much, I think, the medium of now. It's immediate, and it's exciting for those reasons too, but you can control it less. The theater, you got to get it on every night, you know. On the one hand, it's more enjoyable and fulfilling because you do a whole life, you know, for 2 hours or hour and a half.
But if you don't make it one night, you can always have another chance. And
right.
when it's there on film, boy,
yeah, that's true.
And if you hate it, you got to live with it.
Yeah.
Who wrote the article? Can you remember? In the New York Times.
It's in a way a play about people who don't have claims.
Oh, is he talking about the Mel Gusso?
Was it in the New York Times?
In the magazine?
In the magazine?
Was it in
No, Mel didn't write. I didn't read that. No.
Well, it's never really clear what the relationship of the two women was. It would be very easy, I think, and a lot of people feel that they had a sexual relationship when they were younger. There's nothing in the play that suggests that, and there's nothing in the play that really denies it.
But it's not really about that, I don't think. I think it's about, on one level, two people who love one person, and you love many people in your life. There's certainly that going on, you know.
One of the actors who was in the London production, I read an interview that he gave with a magazine called Plays and Players, which is a British magazine about the theater, and he said that when they worked on the play, they all felt it was about possession, or in a way denying. I'm looking at it in another ways, the way you deny another person's reality. It's whatever the relationships might have been between the two women, and what the marriage might have been like when these two people got married originally. That situation is no longer existent. You know, it's just not the same anymore, in the simplest way. And by thinking and behaving and talking and acting in a certain way towards the other person, people have a tendency to make other people over in a way that they want them to be, and to possess them in some way or another, the way they want them. And in a lot of ways, that's what the play is about. And kind of what they learn is that they can't do that to each other when it really gets down to it. So, yes, Anna has as much right to the friend to possess Kate as her husband does, Dealey. But not when Katie talks about it. She doesn't think either one of them has any right to her, to possess her in the way that they want to possess her. So, to some people who feel very strongly that they were lesbians, but I don't think it's tremendously important or pivotal to what he's written about. Of course, we would have to make a choice on that and use it in the way we do the play. I won't tell you what we've decided. Yes. I don't think so. I don't know. Right. I guess I think, I mean, it's a hard question. I guess I think about that a lot. You do a play in one city, and a city has a kind of a feel to it, and at least the theatrical audience of a city. I mean, there's a different audience on Broadway than there is off Broadway and off Broadway, and depending on where you go. And I guess as you begin to know your audiences, maybe you adjust to whatever your knowledge is and your subconscious about them. I haven't been in California long enough, or seen plays in California long enough to know if there is a Los Angeles, for example, theater audience, or how they behave. So we're trying to just do the play actually as best we can. We're trying very hard to make what we do clear. But even making what we do clear is still going to leave the play very wide open and very ambiguous and provocative.
You can only do the play, finally. You can't say, oh, well, they won't understand this, so let's make it clear. You know? Yeah.
No. Yeah. You would have to wait and see. You know, I could tell you we do 15 or 20 performances and everyone works out and said, boy, that's the worst play I've ever seen. then we'll know a little bit more about it. You just never know that until it happens. You know, some people go, wow, that was fantastic. And other people say, gee, that was really never coming here again. It just depends. It's also a hard play to watch. I think if 700 people watch it, you'll have 700 different opinions about it, which is what's good about it, I think. Yeah.
It's
Well,
not.
the designer and I did, actually, and when we thought about the look of the very early on, we thought about the look of what the house should look like, and we were talking a little bit about the look of Sunday Bloody Sunday. What remained of that is a rug. I mean, you know, the end result of that was the color of the rug, which is, I guess, derivative of Sunday Bloody Sunday. But in terms of the play, I mean, I haven't thought of anything like that at all, because the play is really very different than in what it's trying to do than I think Sunday Bloody Sunday tried to do. Though it's about similar kinds of people. Yeah. Except they're all still living in London. These are people who have moved to the country.
I can't hear.
She's saying that
Audience response.
audience response sometimes can, in the middle of a play, applause at a poignant moment. How does that affect you? Are you annoyed? And
Depends if it comes from involvement and if you've touched them in some way and caused them to respond. That's what you're there for, it seems. I don't know how you people feel about it.
Well, I think as long as the important thing is that there is a reaction, really, as far as, unless it's someone who's being negative and being rude. No, I don't mean negative disagreeing. I think that's fine too. If people booed, I would think that would be marvelous if they didn't like it. It's an expression that at least one could understand and not have a total blank. But I think if it's even if they laugh in the wrong place, it could be is all right with me, because that's the whole point of the difference between the theater and other mediums. It's you're very definite contact with the people who are there. It's a sharing. You're sharing it with them right then, that moment. I think so. That's the exciting thing.
It can be very exciting because different audiences will react in different ways, and you don't always get your laugh in the same place. Sometimes you don't get it at all, and sometimes completely unexpected things happen, and it can be very exciting. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think it's... I think performances do change. I mean, this is not based on a tremendous amount of experience, but I think particular audiences influence the kind of performance that's given from night to night. When you have a very receptive audience, the performance has a tendency to be much better than when you have a very hostile or negative audience. But it's the thing about theater that still is unique. It's live. Mistakes can happen. If you want to, you can really talk to a play, and the actors on the stage, and depending on the actors and on the play, sometimes they talk back. And you can influence, really, I think, the way a performance goes on a given night. Sometimes they get worse, but lots of times they get really much better. To this play? Well, at first I took almost any job I could get. I went to school, and when I was in school, I was at a drama school. I guess, I particularly, I just try to do a lot of classics. I mean, I try to do a lot of stuff like Shakespeare and Molière and Chekhov. Yeah, and acting in them too. I personally felt that I couldn't didn't know enough about plays to be effective as a director on a play, for example. You know, how you make a play better, how you make it work, that kind of stuff. Which I didn't do very much of that in school, even though there were a lot of playwrights there. Then kind of when I got out of school, I started doing a lot of real avant-garde things. I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Shepard at all, but he's a very young writer. I think he did a play called Operation Sidewinder, which you might have heard of, which was kind of wildly received in New York. Nobody knew what to do with it. It's about a mechanical snake, and I started doing a lot of that for a while, and then a lot of very, very new plays. But I think it's very important for directors and actors, actually, to do as much as they possibly can. I mean, I did my first Shakespeare this year, and it was fairly okay. I mean, fairly successful in certain terms, but I was kind of disappointed with it. And but the more the things that I was disappointed about in that particular production, I think the more I learned from. And I kind of do anything that just catches my interest. It's very funny. Sometimes you'll be very interested in a play and you want to do it. Let's say you spend less time on a play than you do, for example, on a film. A director spends 3 months or so on a play. But let's say in March there was a particular play that I wanted to do and it didn't get done. And somehow I've passed it by. You know, you get a feeling you've passed something by, that whatever I was interested in that play at that time, I'm not interested in anymore, so I wouldn't do it now. I don't. A lot of other people do. You just kind of, presumably you have an idea about it, or you relate to it. I guess it's the same thing that an actor does. An actor reads a play differently than a director. I mean, they read a play looking at the characters. Director looks at the play. Now, an actor will respond to a particular character, and he would really want to play that part. He may not respond to any of the characters in the play. He would want to do it then. And you kind of either respond to something in the play or you don't. If you do, and it stays with you, you start thinking about it, and before you really know it, you're beginning to work on the play. Just what it does to you, and what do you think it says, and what do you think it's about. And one question leads to kind of a half answer, and that to another question, and you just keep going. Yeah. I don't know. Didn't Joe Chaikin, wasn't he just out here? Wasn't the Metamorphosis here? Well, Mutations was just here. Well, I think it's kind of simple. I mean, at one point, after that, it gets very complicated. They can get done in New York. There are places for them to have their work done. Cafe Chino doesn't exist anymore, but La Mama is still there. There must be 1,000 little workshops down in the East Village where they can get their plays on. And I think perhaps maybe a lot of the younger people in this area are more interested in making films, and their primary energy is not going into doing new plays, so that somehow those kind of people have, find their way into New York, and that's why they're done there as opposed to here. There are very few very short films, you see, done in New York, I would imagine, as compared to how many are done here. Well, I can't. I'd like to duck that, but I don't really know what to say about that because I don't know enough about the program here. I know about things that have repercussions back in the East. Things like Catonsville 9 and the Derek Walcott play Dream on Monkey Mountain and plays like that. But I don't know much about how much ferment there is going on here. It's pretty tough for a whole movement like that, though, I think, to fall on one kind of institution. Do you know what I mean? Like in New York, there's 1,000 places. WPA, American Place.
But this isn't the kind of institution either. It's the same problem exists with Lincoln Center in New York.
Right.
By the very nature of the institution doesn't really encourage people to take chances because it's bureaucratic, really. There are boards of directors and things like that, and the onus is not just on the artistic director. There are all these other businessmen and people like that he has to please. So I would think. I don't know how this organization works.
It's also different. It's in money. You see, when Ellen Stewart, who runs Cafe La Mama, gets $50,000 from Ford or Rockefeller, those are foundations that give money to groups. Somehow she manages to do on that $50,000. She'll do 5 productions, five new plays. In a larger institution where you have unions involved, where actors are working even at the minimum scales, even for not a lot of money, $50,000 is one production. And that has a lot to do with it. If you do 5, then there are 5 young writers that are, getting a play produced someplace, and people are seeing it. But when you do 1, it means 4 aren't getting done. Maybe you didn't do the right one. Maybe it's not getting done the right way.
But it's mostly the unions we were just talking about.
But unions are always a big problem in the theater.
I think that too is but the pity about that is that it happens very much in America generally, and I think that's because the two centers are so far apart. The stage is in New York and the movies are in Hollywood, and it's making whereas London, they're lucky because the movies are in London and the stage is in London. You have 42 and television theaters, and it's incredible. I was there in September, and you can still walk down in the West End and go and see Alec Guinness, you can go and see Alan Bates, you can go Albert Finney, which
Paul
in New
Scofield,
York,
Laurence Olivier, they're
Christopher
all on stage.
Plummer, they're all working on stage
now.
And Lindsay Anderson directs as many plays as he
but
does
the trouble
films.
is, and I agree, we would have had the same wealth in New York, but it's how many years since George Scott or any of these fine actors that started on the stage, they now just totally disappear. Some of them, 10 years will pass by, and then it's too late perhaps to come back to the theater. But it's an unfortunate situation, which I agree with, including directors too. I think they really have to, they in the profession have to set the example and force the issue by saying, well, we promise we will do a play every year. Henry Fonda is one unusual example who does try and do a Broadway show, even though they're kind of light, but they're still extremely valid in the theater. He does every chance he gets, I think, and we need that kind of commitment from more of the established people.
Could you speak up? I couldn't. How do you?
Learn what you're doing. How do you overcome your fear?
Oh.
That's always an individual problem. It helps to know what you're doing. It helps to, be pretty sound and solid in what you do. Do you have any other methods,
Yeah,
Phil?
I think an actor, I think, has the same dream. I think the different professions have different dreams, but I know the actor's dream and it recurs with me quite a lot, is that I'm always going into a theater, and it's 8 o'clock, and I don't know what the play is. I'm supposed to work that night, and I don't know what the play is, and so I'm rushing around and I'm saying, well, show me a costume so I'll know what period it is. And hoping that I'm going to do it. And I'll say, well, I've still got 50 minutes, I'll get a rough idea what it's about, and then I'll go on. And I never do get it, and it comes 8:30, and then the dream always ends, and all the actors have that dream. And it's absolute fear that of not knowing their lines, which represents not knowing their voice projection, not knowing many other things. And I think that's why if you work very hard in rehearsal and you're pretty secure, you'll get an awful lot of fear still on opening night, but you can surmount it, you know.
Miss Bloom, last night I saw The Hired Hand, and I was wondering how...
It's an invisible person.
Where's that coming
over
from?
here. Here I am.
There you
are. I was wondering, right after Easy Rider came out and made the financial success that it did, both Hopper and Fonda got a great deal of independence in their ability to do things that they wanted to do. And it seems as though both of them have, in one sense, failed to have reproduced that same effect. And I was wondering how you felt about that, if they will be able to go ahead and act more or less independently of some of the companies who are financing this, or if they are going to have to go back and start getting the approval of the large corporations who are financing it.
Do you mean small filmmakers or specifically Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper?
Both, please.
Boy, that's a question that takes a long time to answer.
Of course, they're in trouble now.
Yeah, they did. I have to agree with you, but in different ways. And you see the danger of that, or rather the repercussions of that. I mean, Easy Rider made an enormous amount of money, and unfortunately, in this town, that's the thing that counts, and that's the thing that will always count. And the reason that a lot of young, unknown filmmakers were given freedom and, were allowed to do the things that they wanted to do was because Easy Rider made a lot of money. And everyone said, oh, wow, look at this wild, far-out thing. Look, now we've got to do those too. And there were thousands of Easy Riders made. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many pictures, are on the shelf that will never come out, that were made by people that you'll never hear of. And it's very sad because it all kind of backfired. Easy Rider was something that came at the right time. I think that if you go back and see it in a few years, even if you thought it was fantastic at the time, that you'll stop and you'll say, hey, wait a minute, what is this? I mean, not that there weren't some good things in it, but it gave, it opened a door for a lot of people, and then because the things that these people did were not successful, the door was closed again. And it is very difficult now, not only for unknown filmmakers or small independent people to get stuff done. I mean, it's difficult for actors who don't have names to get in films. I mean, it's gone the other way at this point. People are very, very wary of putting people in films who don't have names or who don't bring money into the box office. That answers one part of the question. As far as Peter and Dennis are concerned, I think personally, I do not like The Hired Hand. I don't think that it's a good film. I don't think that it's successful, and I think that it could have been if Peter had stuck to what he had, which was a simple, old-fashioned Western. Corny, but it could have worked on that level. And he tried to make it some incredible, artistic thing, and it just wasn't there. Whenever you try to make something out of something that it doesn't, when it doesn't have those qualities in it, it just doesn't work. And The last movie, I'm one of the few people who think that there were some incredible things in that film. That didn't work either, but to me, there's more talent in that film. Pardon? That's true. That's true. But, you know, if somebody else had cut that film, I know that. What can I tell you? I agree with you. But that gets into a whole other thing with people's personal problems and how much, you know, their problems and their own personal living habits affect what they do, and it does affect what they do. I mean, you can't be a doper and do anything good, I don't think, no matter what it is. Have I answered your question?
We'll take one more question, okay?
Are you asking me? Oh, what's that like? We none of us had worked together previous to this. I can't explain what it's like working on a play. You just develop a relationship. I mean, even if it's only a relationship in working on a play. Sometimes it gets bigger and sometimes it doesn't. And it's like meeting people, I think. You just kind of meet them. I particularly try not to impose any strong notion that I have about the play on it early, because I don't know if it's right, and I don't know the people who are doing it, and you begin to find out after a while how everybody works. Like each one of these actors has a really different way of rehearsing.
We do?
Huh?
We do?
Yes. I can't explain what it is. It's just if you were to watch them in rehearsal for about a week, you would really feel that they each have a different approach to just rehearsing, not even the role itself. I mean, it's not just the way they do things from day to day. And
Verna falls asleep every time I start to speak. Whenever it's my turn to speak, she nods off. I know.
And you just kind of get together, and sometimes you do, and when you do, it usually comes out okay. And sometimes you don't, and when you don't, that's when you do bad productions. That's when they just never make sense somehow. I don't think I've never done one where I felt people didn't come together on it somehow, in the way they all felt about the play, even though they each felt about their roles differently.
I was in a production that did fall apart, that production you might have heard of, called Mata Hari.
Oh.
It was an incredible $800,000 production that was one of those things that chemically worked the wrong way. Everybody loathed each other. And there's 65 people in the company. The director hated the writer hated the actor hated it was just, so it all fell apart, you know. Yeah, well, we ended. I mean, we never had a dress rehearsal, you know, and to start with, and we were opening for the Lady Bird's Democratic Ladies or whatever. They had bought the house. And the first song on the show was "This Is Not a Very Nice War." So obviously we knew we were off to a big start. And at the end of the show, the firing squad was supposed to come on stage and shoot Marissa Mell. The curtain came down for a couple of minutes till they made it change, and the curtain went up. And when the curtain went up, she was going with her hair, and she was supposed to be shot, and she was brushing her hair back. So everybody started to laugh, you know. So it was, it just, and the sets wouldn't come on when they're supposed to, and
I wish I'd seen it. It sounds like it was fun.
Well, I don't know where that went. I know the actors didn't get it. Somebody. Oh, I guess the pre-sold tickets would be returned, I'm sure. But,
everybody asks me that. Yeah. I'll tell you. No, well, he was never really connected with Zoetrope. He almost was. I mean, he and Francis are friends, and he almost got into it, but he didn't quite. He's making commercials with Cal Bernstein. They have a company called Dove Films, and he likes to do that because he loves to shoot film. But there are other things that he wants to do. He's turned down a lot of stuff to direct because he really can't get into it. His biggest interests really are things that lean toward the stuff that's political. And he has bought the Book of Daniel. You know that book? Nobody knows that book. It's a terrific book by E.L. Doctorow. It's a novel, it's fiction, but it's about the Rosenbergs, written from the point of view of the boy whose name is Daniel. And this is what he wants to do. And this gets into, he's gone now. This gets into, something that that other guy was asking about. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to do it, because in order to do it right, he's got to shoot it in New York, which costs a lot of money on account of the unions. He's got to do it period, and it sort of skips around in time. And in order for it to really work, he's got to use people that nobody has seen before. Because if he picks the stock, Jewish character actors to play those parts, the whole thing will go out the window. So whether or not he's ever going to be able to raise the money to do the thing is questionable. But that's the thing that he's really interested in now. And there are a couple of people, the guy who wrote the book and Haskell both are working on the script, but I can't tell you when. I mean, a long time, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry, we're out of time. Thank you all for coming very much.
Thank you.